All right. Okay. Well, without further ado, we got an amazing day for you. So thank you for being here. You can stay as long or as little as you like. A number of different topics. My name is Malcolm Saunders, and very happy to host you. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful December we're having. We're almost at the solstice, the shortest day of the year. It always seems so counterintuitive that the sun starts coming back and that's when winter starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, that's, I guess, how the world works, right? So I'm excited for this time of year. Feels really good. And this topic that we're going to dive into first, very appropriate. Top tips to eat seasonally in winter. But is it even winter out there yet?
Right? I mean, chronologically, not until the 21st?
21st, 22nd, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
20th,
I mean,
yeah.
And when it feels right, when you feel the shift in you is actually when it starts. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. And, you know,
psychologically, it's winter.
Yeah. And of course, winter's, it's the cold, it's the snow, but it's also the light, right? I'm sure you're going to address that as well. So, yeah, I don't want to take any more of Luka's time. We're going to try and do about 45 minutes or so. Then she'll have some time for questions. And then kind of at the top of the hour, every hour, we'll have a new presentation at 1 o'clock, crafting a nourishing herbal bone broth with Vivian and Brittany. That'll be amazing. Denis will be here at 2 for a medicinal mushroom adventure, photographic journey. He recently came back from the coast. And then 3 p.m., Kyra, getting everybody moving and somatic experience. So yeah, sounds like a good day to me.
Yeah.
And all right, well, I'll leave Luka to take it away.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we are recording it. We're streaming it. We got a couple folks on.
Did you hit record? You did?
I did,
okay.
yes.
I always forget.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And if anybody wants the recording who's here, should they sign up through the website for it?
We'll post it to YouTube tomorrow.
Oh, and it'll be public for everybody. Yeah. Okay. So if you don't yet follow the Light Cellar on YouTube, go to it. Go subscribe. There's always good content being put up by me. So that works out. And Malcolm, actually, mostly Malcolm. Okay, so welcome to today. I don't have a handout for today, but there is a way if you want to get the handout later. There's you're welcome to take screenshots or photos with your phone if you want. You're welcome to jot notes. You're also welcome. There's going to be like a little bit.ly link, like a QR code. I'm trying something new today because I wanted to make sure that you get all the information that you need so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, but you're welcome to. So my name is Luka. I am a holistic nutrition practitioner here in Calgary, and I've been working at supporting people with nutrition since 2014. My big bag is actually working with histamine and mast cell activation, and I wrote a book about it. It's available on the shelves, and we principally work, my colleague Tracy Reed and I, we principally work with people who have complex health issues. So anything to do with histamine release, histamine intolerance, or mast cell activation is actually the bigger piece of what we support people through. Now, I like to also live beyond the histamine paradigm. I like to make sure that everybody knows that real food is accessible to everybody. And today we're really going to focus in on ways to think about moving through the winter season. I thought it was a really good topic to bring to this open house because we're about to shift into that winter season, and it's about aligning ourselves with the winter season. So today's class, we have 3 things we're going to address. First up, we're going to talk about your circadian rhythm and why I really think this is one of the biggest secrets that can help our bodies function better. Number 2, we're going to talk about supporting the organs of the season from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, as a matter of fact. And lastly, this is really about tapping into the energetics of the season and living in tandem with the energetics. If you spend a hot second outside and you start to pay attention to how the natural world works, you get a whole lot of cues about how to be a human and how to move through the world. So we're going to highlight some of these things today to give you some inspiration on ways to bring ease into moving into the winter season. Because I don't know if you're alive right now. Hi. Oh my God. What the? Okay, so today is about making things as best as we can in our small environment, affecting the people around us, and making a difference where we are. And the goal really, when you start to tend to all of this, is that now we're supporting the body to be well. So part 1, let's get into why this is about aligning yourself with Ma nature. So this to me looks exactly, yeah, come on in. This is what Alberta, I think, would have looked like hundreds of years ago with buffalo, bison roaming. But when we're talking about eating with the seasons, which is the main topic today, there's two ways to think about this. Think about your ancestors, the people you came from. So for me, it's Acadian and French from France, and Irish people who are actually British first. So those are the people I come from, and that's the genetics that brought me to be here today. But I want you to also think about your ancestors of the land you now call home. While they may not be necessarily blood ancestors, who were the ancestors and how did they eat on the land you now call home? And this is Treaty 7 territory. So what did people eat traditionally on this land? So you can think of those two ways into this topic. So what they all had in common, everybody ate seasonally because you didn't have a choice. You couldn't just go and go, I want a banana. I'm going to go to Safeway. It's 1832. I feel like a banana today. Yeah, that doesn't happen. So you ate seasonally because you only had access to what was around you. Everybody did slow cooking. At this time of year, everybody slow cooked. Nobody was eating a salad. No one. They didn't even have cold frames where they were growing lettuce because that didn't make any sense at the time. So there was a whole lot of slow cooking. Everything was slow cooking. Everything was slow food. If you wanted muffins, maybe you were lucky enough that you could go to the country store and buy some already milled flour. You know, and I'm not saying we need to do that all the time now, but if we understand that this is how our genetics were fed and this is what brought us to be alive today, now you can have a deeper appreciation for the kind of nutrition that can be supportive. I also think we need to live in our current day and age and to be a part of what's happening in our environment. So don't think that this is like 100% can only do this. Now, your ancestors, both the ones who came from and the ones who lived on this land traditionally, everything was made from scratch. I don't have time for that. I'm so glad I live when I do, P.S. So they really had super simple meals, and they used a lot of local ingredients, and they had no choice but to use what was in season or what they were able to put up and to sort of keep into the season. Come on in, we've got some spots over here or right up front. If you're not shy. Yeah. So they had a lot of simple ingredients, local ingredients, everything in season. And that's the food that fed the genetics that brought you to be here today. So kind of appreciation here, right? For the grandmothers before us and everybody who had a part to play in all of that. Now, eating seasonally, this is a tourtière. So I am of Acadian descent. And my mother's side of our family was all Acadian, les cormiers, tête dure, as we like to say, which means hardhead. Cormier is the mountain ash tree in French, and it's a very hard tree. So my Acadian roots would have made this type of pie at this time of year. I'm sure they wouldn't have been super patriotic. They wouldn't have put une fleur de lis on the pie, but I did, because I'm a nerd. And it's a super cracked pie, and I suck at making pie. But I think pie is the perfect example of eating seasonally at this time of year. So this is a very traditional pie from my Acadian ancestors. And in Acadian meat pies, I think you think of meat pie. Okay, spoiler alert. If you've heard this story before, you can't answer. If you're thinking meat pie or tourtière, what kind of meat goes in the meat pie? Beef and pork and, yeah, duck. Yeah, the original was pigeon, actually. Yeah, chicken. Yeah, suet for sure would have been in there, but what kind of meat? Like what was the texture of the meat? Ground beef? Okay. The Acadian way is, it was originally pigeon, and it was stewed pigeon. So it's really like stringy beef, like almost pulled beef. So the traditional Acadian version of the last 100 years or so that my grandmother taught, my mom taught me, is to have shredded pork and beef together. And you would have made a pie. Well, what is pie made out of but flour, lard, if you're French Canadian like I am, and like what is lard but where the sun is stored? Like what is an Acadian meat pie but a big old ball of sun on the table in the dead of winter when there's no sun, right? And then on the side, I don't know if you could see, but up top right, there's a little relish that my mom and my grandmother used to can all the time. They would do a lot of canning. And it was the signaling of the fall season because they would make this zucchini relish. So you would have served this with a relish, which would have been something in your pantry. So this is kind of a recent history, my personal history. And this is what eating seasonally looked like. And the reason I want to highlight this is because eating this way is information. When you stick loosely, I'm not saying you have to 100%. I'm never a proponent of 100%, but I'm a proponent of bringing in what has served us till now and figuring out how to live in the now with what we've got. You are a part of the lineage of people. You're a part of figuring out how to feed the humans around you, including yourself. So when you ate seasonally, you provided information about where you are in time and place. There's a lot of information in the food you're eating, more than just the proteins, the fats, the carbs, the B6, B12, magnesium, all the nutrients. There's more than that. There's information about where you are in time and place. And food ends up being a secondary trigger for your circadian rhythm. Who here has never heard of circadian rhythm? Okay, maybe people at home, sorry if you've heard of it. If you've never heard of it, we'll do a super brief just to put everybody on the same plane. Circadian rhythm is your body's internal 24-hour clock. So everybody has an internal clock, and everybody has to reset their circadian rhythm every day. Your circadian rhythm governs your hormones over the course of the day, your blood sugar balance, whether or not you have leptin resistance like me, or if you have troubles with insulin, or you can't sleep, or you have fertility issues, or you have blood sugar balance, type 2 diabetes. Like, there's a lot of different ways. Histamine issues actually can be an indicator that your circadian rhythm is off. And so much of setting up the body to know where you are in time and place comes from information from our food, and that food ends up being one of those triggers to reset your circadian rhythm. The first trigger is the outside sun ball in the sky. So sunlight outside is the first one. Everybody talks about that, and it's a really good piece to know. But number two is food. So the foods you eat have a really big say in your circadian rhythm. Breakfast is super important. Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, and we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. Now, the sunlight, the rays of sun, your eyes actually register the kind of information about where you are in time and place on your eyeballs. That transmits energy, or information rather, to your brain. And in your brain, some different processes are triggered because of this light, based on the quality, the angle, different things. Do you know that the outside light sways your microbiome? Exposure to outside light tells a microbiome, oh, look, it's December. This is what is available in foods in December. Could you please make these different microbiome strains be prolific, be the guys in charge? So your microbiome shifts with the seasons based on the information you get from the sun. So, for example, if it's January and I'm in Calgary, the sun says it's middle of January in Calgary. You need to be ready to eat the foods available in January. Root vegetables, lots of meat, salted meats, probably canned meats, canned fish, root veg, squash, things that would have wintered okay, lots of ferments. But if you're in Costa Rica in January, the sunlight says you're in Costa Rica in January. Bananas are in season. Get ready to eat bananas. Now, I'm not saying if you're in Calgary, don't eat bananas. But what I am saying is that if you do eat bananas, you don't necessarily have the right balance in the microbiome to properly digest the bananas. That's why I think we need to challenge it and still eat bananas on occasion. But if you super struggle with digestion, one of the biggest shifting pieces you can do is to eat seasonally, because now you're going to be in tandem with the information you're getting from the sunlight. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the question is, what happens when you go to Costa Rica in the winter? So if you're disrupting where you are in your moving spaces, go outside and eat what's local. That will always be true. And when you come back, go outside and eat local. Eat what would be sort of around this time. It's one of the reasons why I say the ancestors to the land you call home. So keep that in mind, and keep also in mind, what season it is and where you are. So the sun triggers your microbiome to feature those strains that feast on the foods that are typically available in that particular season. So there was this one study, which was amazing, and I can't remember, it was Sasha Kalavoda who told me about this study. It's a very small study. They had like 12 or 14 deer. And deer in the summer eat a lot of fresh vegetation, bark and grasses and berries and whatever's available in the forest. And in the winter, they tend to eat bark. So they kept the deer in this enclosure in the summer, and they fed them their winter diet of bark. And the deer got so bloated, they were really worried they were going to kill the deer. So they had to stop the experiment. That is a food they eat, but they were eating it in the wrong season, and they got so bloated from eating a diet that's not in season with them. Could that be a part of what's contributing to discomfort for you or a hard time digesting? Maybe. Yes. Of course. Now, another thing to think about this too, when we're talking about information about where you are in time and place, food is also where sunlight is stored. So you can think of that we are totally light beings, always chasing the sun, like all animals are. So food is where sunlight is stored. So that's another way to think about eating seasonally. Where is the sun stored at this time of year? Where is the sun stored? Give me what you think might be an answer. No wrong answer. Pie. Pie is a delivery of a sun ball of fire in the sky. I know, I love pie. Yeah, take a picture if you want. Yeah. But where is food, where is sunlight stored right now at this time of year? Roots, yeah. Root vegetables for sure. And it's stored also in the fat of animals. The animals store fat. If the animals are allowed outside, they will make vitamin D, a bunch of other vitamins, but they will make vitamin D when they're able to get outside in the sun. Where do they store this vitamin D? In their fat. So when you eat lard has 1 tablespoon of lard has as much vitamin D3 as the dropper of vitamin D3 you take. And it's easier for you to absorb. Mushrooms, if you put mushrooms outside in the sun, they will make vitamin D3 as well. So it's a really great one. And it's one that's actually super awesome in the winter. Yeah, totally. So eating seasonally, when you eat in alignment with what's available, kind of thinking of what the ancestors ate at this time of year, you are setting up safety in the body. And when you do this, you reduce the body's burden of stress. So I use this term a lot in a lot of my stuff. The burden of stress to me is how much stuff is adding to the stress in your body and making things not work well and driving inflammation. So if you have a chronic disease, if you have histamine issues, if you have any type of something that's taken 20 years to creep up, like osteoporosis or type 2 diabetes or Alzheimer's, right? Like the big diseases, big capital D disease. Come in. Hi. So all of these show up in a body that has a higher burden of stress. So the way to reduce your body's burden of stress, one of the ways is to eat seasonally, because now your body knows where you are in time and place. And your body is also, are you getting outside? I hope you are. If you're getting outside, now it will also entrain all of that biochemistry to work better. So the simple act of going out in the morning can be a really big needle mover to get your body to know where you are in time and place. Eating seasonally cements that, and now you start to support the biochemistry of the body, which runs on your circadian rhythm. I'm kind of really whizzing through a lot of these ideas. I'm sure this could be a 3-hour class. But another way to think about this, where is the sun's energy stored at this time of year? So just to highlight this a little bit further, meats. Meats, this is the time of year where farmers are traditionally slaughtering animals. They are not slaughtering animals at the beginning of the spring or in the early summer because they haven't had the season to fatten up yet. So meat is a winter food. I'm not saying don't eat it in the other seasons, but I'm saying meat should be a major part of your diet in the winter months. That is where the sun's energy is stored. And for anybody who is our vegetarian friends or vegan in the audience today, then you will also find that in your lentils because you are harvesting those at the end of the fall, and that's what's going to take you through wintertime. So other places where the sun is stored, animal fats. All of your animal fats, even if it is conventionally raised, they will have really good information in them. Good, better, best, friends. Good, better, best. If you are ditching the margarine and going to super store-bought butter, you're ahead of the game. Good work. If you are able to spring the extra money and buy pasture-raised butter from cows raised on pasture, you're going to win the game even more. Well, no, we're all going to win the game. It's not a competition. And it's not a game. And it's not a, yeah. It's just really good for you. So eating animal fats is where the sun's energy is stored at this time of year. So a winter diet requires a lot of animal fats and animal meats. Foods in the pantry. This is where the sun's energy is stored. I have some dried tomatoes and dried greens, dried teas from my garden. I made some kale chips. I forced myself to eat them. They are in my pantry. That's the kind of food that you'd be relying on at this time of year. Foods in the cold storage. So things you would have kept in the cellar. All the squash, all the root vegetables, the cabbage, the sauerkrauts, anything that you would think of in a cold storage. And of course, those fermented foods. Ferments are huge in the winter. It's how you preserve the sun, actually. So now let's get into part 2. So now I want to talk about the wisdom of aligning with ancestral knowledge from the world of traditional Chinese medicine. So in TCM circles, and I'm not a TCM practitioner, but I just find it so fascinating when you look at different wisdom from different worlds or different parts of the world. The winter season is the season of the kidneys. So these are your kidneys and your bladder, of course. And the little hats on top of your kidneys are your adrenals. And they are in the lower back, about middle of the back, kind of around your waist area. And your kidneys and the adrenals are about the size of your thumb. They're not very big. And this is the season of the kidneys and the adrenals and the bladder. The main element of the season from a TCM perspective is water. This is going to make sense in a second. So water is the element of pooling, of tranquility, and the element of flow in the body. So if you keep this in mind, how can this help you move through this season with a bit more ease? What do you need to do in your life to bring in and support that element? Do you have anything that is trying to stop the element of pooling, trying to stop tranquility? It's Christmas. This is so against what we're supposed to be doing at this time of year. Do all the parties, go outside, go visit everyone, go have everybody, everything all the time, and all the lights and all the sounds, go shopping and go do all the things. Yeah. Is that part of why you feel this season is so a little bit heavy? Is it because it's so against what we're naturally supposed or drawn to, perhaps? And it's okay. Can you find a balance between the two? Yeah, work on a puzzle, right? That's the way to do it. That's tranquility. There's flow to putting the pieces out. So in the body, the water element is connected with the circulation of the blood, your perspiration, tears, your bladder, and of course, most significantly, your kidneys. So when you're thinking about, I like to think of different seasons as an invitation to go focus on one thing, one system in the body. And for the winter season, I really think the kidneys and the adrenals are the perfect season to look after. And so that's what influences. I have a list of foods for you. I'm just explaining how I came to this list. So sitting on top of your kidneys is the adrenals. So this is the perfect season to look after your adrenals. And the corresponding organ, TCM always has a corresponding organ. The corresponding organ is the bones. And this is through observation, like centuries of observation, traditional knowledge passed down, and this traditional knowledge built as a communal thing. And this is a lot of what has been observed is in the winter, it's a really good time to look after your kidneys, your adrenals, and your bones. And lucky you, it's on the food list. Haha. So how this can play into our foods for the winter season. So in particular, when we're talking about the kidneys, black and blue foods are of particular importance for the kidneys. There's an affinity in black foods that really supports the kidneys. So tell me, what are black or blue foods that you eat in your diet? Blueberry, yeah. Beans, yeah, black beans. Hi, hint. Yeah. Purple onions. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Cabbage, purple cabbage. Chaga tea. Oh, yeah, chaga tea. And I'll add to that Romania tea. So if you are making medicinal mushroom teas where you're steeping chaga or reishi, another one you can add in there is Romania. Romania is awesome for the kidneys, and it's even better for the adrenals. It is an antihistamine, anti-inflammatory, and an overall brilliant tonic to support this winter season. Yeah. Rehmannia is a root, and it's a root of a plant that's fermented for 3 years or so in black beans. And that's one of the reasons why it's so black. We'll ask him when he comes back. Rehmannia, it looks like a medicinal mushroom, but it's a big thing. Usually in discs is how it typically comes. And you break off a little piece and you'll simmer it for 30 to 60 minutes. It'll give a really caramelly flavor. It's got this, it's umami, like it's a depth of something that lends itself really well to do sort of caramel kind of flavors. So I really, really like it. It's one that I use. Do you know if you have Rehmannia in stock? Okay. Rehmannia. Yeah. And it's on the food list. Haha. Of course it is. That make it easy. So in this winter, other ways to think about this. This is not the season to eat cold or raw foods. So the salad thing, and my kid needs to eat greens all year round because I love her so much. Maybe if your kid doesn't want greens at this time of year, your kid's onto something. God, yes. Smart. Yeah. And I'm not against I will on occasion eat arugula in the winter because it just feels like, oh yeah, remember that there's food that's alive? Like I miss arugula. Arugula is one of my favorites. So I will go out and buy arugula once in a while, but I don't make salads. And if I do make salads, they are roasted veg in the winter. So it's that invitation to start shifting more into what's in season. Because again, you're not making a microbiome, you're not featuring those strains to feast on the salad. But July, you better be eating it. Other ways to think about this, call in the element of water. If that's the main element for the season, you can think stocks, broths, soups, stews, long, slow simmers. Big joints of meat that take forever to break down are so nourishing to the kidneys and to the adrenals. Oh, awesome. Thanks, friend. So this is what Rehmannia root looks like. And they've got a package. I'll pass it around. So for anybody who's watching at home, is it this one? Yeah. These are what the slices look like. And I believe you're able to purchase it off the website. So just go to lightcellar.ca. And I'll pass this around. Yeah, so the tincture can work on a totally different level and go even deeper if you want. So yeah, you can do a combination of both. You can do just one. See how you feel. See what it shifts. So yeah, think about those stocks and broths and soups, and lucky you, we're going to get a class on how to make broth right after this one. So stick around for that. Now, root, veg, and squash is what would have been in the cellar at this time of year. So those are the kinds of foods to feature. Turns out they're really amazing for your kidneys and especially your adrenals. Now, special considerations for adrenal revitalization. So we're all exhausted from being humans. Our children are exhausted from having to figure out how to fit in this world that seemingly is falling apart. I will tell you, I don't think the world's falling apart. I think the world is building brilliant things, and we are part of it, and it's very exciting. Okay, so adrenal revitalization. One of the things to know about the adrenals, they super love minerals. You need a lot of minerals for your adrenals. So where do you get minerals? Well, you'll get them in herbal teas. Nettle is my favorite. If you do not have nettle in your pantry at home, you better be picking some up today. And I didn't do that because we're at the Light Cellar. I did that because I care about you and we need you. So nettle tea is great. Seaweed is fantastic. For anybody who's making a stock, so Brittany's going to show you how to make a stock in the next class. These are the types of things. Are you talking about seaweed and nettle? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. So Brittany's going to be talking about seaweed and nettle. So make sure you stick around. That's the kind of thing you can add to soups, stocks, whatever you want, stew all the time. Think about food from the ocean. Anything from the ocean is amazingly full of minerals. So we're talking shellfish, seafood, fish, seaweed, sea salt. Yeah, nori papers. Nori papers are a great delivery system of food to your mouth. Organ meats. Liver. Liver and heart. Probably two of the most nutrient-dense foods you can eat. Also brilliant suppliers of minerals that help nourish your adrenals. Now, good animal fat at every meal. As it turns out, that's where the sun is stored. Oh, handy that. Why don't we eat that way for the winter? Oh, turns out it's good for your adrenals. Do you need it all to make sense? If you do, now we just cemented it in your brain, right? So good animal fat at every meal, make it like a pat of butter or like a tablespoon per person. And if you're like, oh my God, do I have to measure this, Luka? No. Do you want to measure it? Why don't you just take a knife and put a pat of butter on top of the spaghetti you're serving to everybody? Why don't you put half a block of butter in a big pot of spaghetti sauce or chili like I do? Do you know that Italian grandmothers did that because it cut the acidity of the tomatoes? Your Nona loves you. Yeah. And if tolerated, ferments are awesome. Not everybody tolerates ferments. If you don't, you need to talk to me because it's a histamine thing. But ferments are where a lot of food information and nourishment is stored in the winter months. Do you know that in a ferment of, 2 cups of sauerkraut, you will get so much vitamin C? That is how people got their vitamin C in the winter in the prairies. Okay, well, I don't know any indigenous people who were fermenting cabbage, but when other people came from other lands, we brought the wisdom of the ancestors before us and brought sauerkraut with us. The indigenous people from the area would actually ferment the berries with pemmican. They would make pemmican. So they would pound bison fat along with dried bison meat along with berries, and that was their vitamin C hit. So you can learn to make pemmican. My God, I need to get somebody in at the store here to make pemmican. But yeah, if you can, ferments are a really great way to get some of those harder to find ingredients that are less readily available in winter foods. And it's one of the ways you can still eat locally, which is really nice. Another special consideration for adrenal revitalization, don't skip breakfast. So sorry if you're doing intermittent fasting. Block your ears, don't listen to me for a second. So skipping breakfast puts your body in a stress mode. And if you're in the early stages of intermittent fasting and you have a female body, chances are, and male bodies actually will work really well, you'll feel really awesome at first because you've turned on the stress response, which makes you feel like you can do all the things. And then you do that for 2 years and you're like, oh my God, I'm having a hard time making ends meet. Yeah, you're not feeding yourself enough. You're shorting yourself nutrients. And you're shorting yourself that circadian rhythm trigger. If you skip breakfast, it's a massive disruptor of your circadian rhythm. Now you're throwing off all of your hormones. The 2 major hormones in your circadian rhythm are cortisol and melatonin. And if those 2 are not able to work on their regular scale that they're supposed to, if cortisol is turned on, jacked up, go, instead of the gentle climb it's supposed to do with the circadian rhythm, now you're in stress mode. You can't make melatonin. You have a hard time sleeping. If you can't sleep, your insulin is not able to give information to the body about what you need for tomorrow's meals. Your leptin is interrupted actually because of insulin. Leptin's another hormone that starts to get thrown off, and then you start to have that spare tire around your midriff like me. You're welcome. I brought my best example. So don't skip breakfast. Skipping breakfast is one of the hardest things on your adrenals long term. So in this season of winter, I'm not against intermittent fasting to some degree. If you want, find somebody else. I'm not your person. But I'll question you. If you've been doing it for years, is it still working for you? Well, yeah, because it made me feel so great at first. Yeah, but you're coming to me 10 years later and you've got stuff on the go. Is it still working for you? That's all I'll say. So eating breakfast is key for adrenal health. Our adrenal health. So let's look at what a food list can look like that takes into the consideration those foods that are available locally and seasonally, the foods that nourish the kidneys, that nourish your adrenals, and that take care of your bones. So this is how this list came to be. So you are welcome. Up top right, I'm going to tell you it's nettle and bee pollen. I don't have a cursor on my screen. You're welcome to get a screenshot of this if you want, but I will tell you there's a way you can get it on a handout later. So I'll make sure that you have that as well. But these are foods to focus on for the season. So this is a food list. This is what the handout looks like. It's really unsexy, but it's the kind of thing you can tack to the back of your kitchen cupboard maybe. So for those who are at home, this is the handout, and I'll show you how to get the handout in a second. I tried to automate it today, so we'll see if it works. Anyway, so your foods from left to right, the ones on the left are the most important. The ones on the right are ones you may consume in smaller amounts. Like you certainly wouldn't eat the same amount of molasses as you would eggs. Like, oh my God. That would be so in the mouth. Yeah. So on the left, we have meat stock. If you're not sure what meat stock is, it's a shorter cook of bone broth. Are you addressing a bit? Okay. Okay, awesome. Sure. Okay. So meat stock is a shorter cook of bone broth. The reason I like meat stock, it's lower in histamine, and I have histamine issues. So I cannot tolerate a bone broth. So it's actually a shorter cook, and it's better tolerated by people who react to a lot of foods. So if you're not sure about a bone broth and you have it and you have super instant diarrhea, oh, I wrecked some pants. Get in on the meat stock action. They also had to recarpet the floor at my daughter's dance studio. Yeah, that's fun. I'm 50. I don't care. Okay. It's all right. I was 40 at the time. I cared. Oh, I cared. So meat stock, you would get if you sign up for my newsletter, which if you need the handout, you automatically will get that recipe book anyway. So you'll get the meat stock recipe if you follow the link I'll share with you today. But eggs, organ meats, pastured and wild caught animals and fish. Now, while I think of this, eggs is not necessarily available at this time of year. It's not a traditional food that chickens would be producing because chickens only make eggs in certain amounts of daylight because they are circadian rhythm beings and they do not produce eggs in the winter. If you were to extend this to humans, based on the information of light, if chickens can't make as many eggs at this time of year, what do you think humans might have on the go? It's interesting to think about. Anyway, I'm saying circadian rhythm is a massive missing piece to so many things we don't even think about. So eggs traditionally at this time of year, if you are purchasing eggs, they are the animals are artificially supported to produce eggs at this time of year. We live in 2023. And eggs are amazing for the kidneys and the adrenals. So there you go. So black sesame seeds, right? There's one of the black foods. Walnuts and almonds are amazing. Butter and ghee, lard and tallow, duck fat and schmaltz. I put all the animal fats I could think of. Olive oil, what's schmaltz? Tallow is the beef fat, rendered beef fat. And they have tallow cookies at the drinks bar, the elixir bar. So tallow is the rendered fat from cows. So for anybody who purchases a quarter or half an animal or a whole animal from a local rancher, when you're ordering, request the fat. And if you're lucky, like I was, I get from Red Tail Farms, I love them. Dana would bring me the fat of 4 pigs. She'd be like, no one wants the lard. Do you want it? Yes, I do. My grandmother would be so proud of me. Pie for everyone. So yeah, tallow. And there's a class actually coming up in January that will tell you how to render tallow as well, which is really great here at the shop. Olive oil, coconut foods, coconut milk, coconut meat itself, coconut butter, coconut, all the coconuts. Lentils. Lentils are a total food of the season. Absolutely. This is when we would be harvesting it. And it would have been harvested already, and we would have it in our pantry. You've got all the vegetables. Those are the vegetables that are typically abundant in this season. Peas are a cold weather crop. At this time of year, they're not really growing, but maybe you put them in your freezer. Mushrooms, amazing food for this time of year. Dark leafy greens, broccoli and cauliflower, beets and carrots, squash, like all the root veg. And then we've got a lot of fruit there. So lots of berries. And again, that's a combination of what's available seasonally and also foods that are super supportive to the adrenals and the kidneys and the bones. Citrus fruit is we're getting into citrus fruit season. Who remembers having the clementines just at Christmas and like eating so many of them, right? Yeah, like that's a seasonal food. Now you can get citrus in July, which is weird. You're not supposed to. This is what I mean by seasonal eating. Imagine, I should have put this in here. Imagine it is August and you are a gardener. So if you're not a gardener, imagine it. And you went in your garden, it's the 3rd week of August and it's been like 30 degrees for 2 weeks. You go to pick a tomato off the plant and the tomato goes floop as soon as you touch it because it's so ripe. Imagine tasting that tomato. And now fast forward to February, go buy a tomato at the grocery store and taste that tomato. What's the difference? What's that? Everything is different. Yeah, right? The tomato in February, I can bounce off the ground, it comes back up. My tomato from my garden, splat. And then you cry. Yeah, so that's the difference in seasonal eating. The food is also totally different. So for those who are catching this, up top right, we've got nettle and bee pollen are the first two entries there. Bee pollen is a brilliant B vitamin complex in food form. Wherever, and I think here they don't put it in the fridge, but bee pollen should be stored in the fridge. B vitamins are heat sensitive, so they tend to degenerate a little bit faster when they're not in the fridge. So as soon as you get home, toss it in the fridge. They sell it very quickly here, so I think the turnaround is quite quick. Black and wild rice, right? There's your black and blue foods. Molasses is another super dark food. Molasses is so nourishing to the adrenals, amazing. Sea salt and seaweed, rich in minerals for your adrenals. So really nice way to keep the winter going and really nourish us where the sun has been stored. Did everybody get a picture who wanted it? Okay. Yeah. So the question is dried fruit. You would put dried fruit in your pantry. Mango? Yeah. So in the winter, you would have dried fruit for carrying you through the winter. So yeah, absolutely, dried fruit is brilliant in the winter. Dried mango, it's a really nice way to there's tons of fiber in there. There's some really accessible carbohydrates that can nourish your adrenals. Your adrenals actually need carbohydrates. So I'm not against carbohydrates. Yeah, dried fruit is absolutely brilliant. So now we're going to talk roots, shoots, and flavors to support all three of the main organs. So for our spices, and this is also on the handout, so we've got fennel, citrus peel, coriander, garlic, ginger, nigella. Nigella is another black seed or black food. It's also known as kalonji. So they often have it here at the shop. It's an antihistamine flavor, which tastes like onions and garlic without being part of the onion and garlic family. So for anybody who has FODMAP issues, that's your onion alternative. Nigella seeds. Yeah, nigella is amazing. And they're tiny little seeds. They grow into these incredibly complex flowers. They're beautiful. And nigella turns out is amazing for your adrenals and your kidneys because it's a black food. Oregano, thyme, turmeric, these are all winter flavors that you would tend to have that really help to bring the warmth in. And getting through the winter is about stoking the inner fires. You've got lots of spices there to stoke the inner fire that ends up supporting all of your organs in the season. We've got lots of teas. So if this feels like an overwhelming list, I encourage you to pick 1 to 3 different types of teas and just rotate through them for the season. And then next season, switch it up. Nobody would have been drinking nettle tea all year round unless you're me. Most people would have nettle in the spring and then maybe a bit in the fall, or actually just before everything else ran out, because they'd be like, oh God, I guess I'll dig into the nettle. There's no peppermint left. They would have gone for other stuff first. But it's also ridiculously probably one of my favorite mineral-rich foods out there. But there's lots of other teas. These are all really great for the adrenals. The one I'll put 2 with caveats. Holy basil and is licorice in there? Oh, I took licorice out. Okay. So holy basil is the only one where I would really actually caution not every day. I love holy basil, but if your adrenals are having a super hard time, this is going to make them struggle even harder because it actually stops production of cortisol even more. And if you are deep into adrenal issues, there's a potential of making them work even less, which you don't want. And then what happens is I had a client where she drank holy basil every day and she ended up having to go to the hospital. Her blood pressure tanked, and that's not awesome. So I would say holy basil is the only one where I would say not every day, but yeah, every second day, sure. Gochu kola is another herb, and it's a herb that's actually really good for reducing stress and supporting mental function, cognitive function. Yeah, memory to some extent, but it's more the blood flow and the sort of working of the brain for the brain to work well. So gochu kola is a really nice one. You can find it often in loose leaf here or in blends. So that's another way. I'll answer your question in a second. So that's another way to think about this too. You can jot down 3 herbs that you really like from there. And if you don't want to drink them straight up, find a blend that has that in there. Yeah. Oh, gynostemma. Yeah. Yeah. So it could potentially be histamine. So the question is gynostemma and gochu kola both gave a reaction of like she's had 10 cups of coffee. So you get quite anxious and your energy sort of a little bit out of control. So gynostema, as far as I understand it, is like a great big scrub pad that goes through your body and kind of suds up the place and cleans up the joint kind of thing. Not your joints, but your body. So if it is energizing in that sense, there is a potential it's triggering histamine release. It could, yeah. If it's uncomfortable, go for something else. It's just an invitation to go for something else. Or consider it part of a blend. I really like, gynostema tastes like freshly cut grass to me. So I like to mix it in with peppermint. So it gives it a nice blend. And then you're just reducing the amount, the volume that you're consuming. And you're still getting the benefits of it, but seeing how that sits. And if it's still too energizing, listen to your body. Like really pay attention. Oh, this is maybe a bit too much. I think of it as too much sun inside. Oh, no, it's quiet time right now. Shh. I'm going to go back to my ginger tea. Shh, shh, keep it down. Yeah. Yeah. So lots of different options there. And then we get into the superb foods. So these are like the level 400 foods. You've got ashwagandha in there and bee pollen, camelberry powder, chlorella, collagen, gelatin, cordyceps. Cordyceps in particular is a great medicinal mushroom for the kidneys and the adrenals. And of course, reishi and chaga are not in there. Chaga is a bit tricky on the kidneys, I will say, can be potentially. Elderberry is a dark food at this time of year. There's your Rehmannia. Seaweed, shatavari is another really great herb to add in. So you might want to pick one, tops two from these superb foods and use those in this season and then switch it up for the next season. Shatavari is a berry and it's typically dried and then put in powder. And then you would add like a quarter teaspoon to a cup of tea or an elixir or a bowl of yogurt or your oatmeal or something like that. So if you want a printable version of this list, those who are at home, you could take a screenshot of it. Of course, you can't see it because the image is there. Give me 1 second. I'll do this. You can grab the image of it if you want, the QR code. It's the first time I try this. Let's see if it works. What this does, it's gonna, if you take a photo with it, if you go to take a photo with it, and then it should highlight in your picture, and you click on that, it'll take you to a link. Just pop your email in there. And then I'm gonna send the email out. I'm trying to automate this because I spend like 3 hours after every class emailing what people want. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So if you take a photo of this, you should be, or you almost take a photo, it should make it available to click on and to take you through to that link. You just add your email to it. Even if you're on my email list, do it anyway, because this is going to tag you and automate that you'll get the handout tomorrow. If they don't, I want you to jot down that link in the bottom left, bit.ly/winterluka. And that is going to also take you directly to it. So you could just pop that into your browser if you want, and it's going to let you do that. And if it doesn't, come find me after. We'll set it up. Yeah, capital W, capital L. I think the capital letters make a difference. Okay. Yep. Yep. And then that's going to get mailed out on Monday. So if you get your email in after Monday, you may not get the handout. If that happens, get in touch with me. I have my email here and I'll email it to you. I'm trying to save myself a little bit of work. Okay, we've got one last part. I was supposed to be done by now. Ha, 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 talker Luka. So ways to think and move through the season. So now we're getting into the energetics of things. So if you look out into the natural world at this time of year, the energy of the plants is in the roots. That was already mentioned. Somebody mentioned this. So for us, I think of that as an invitation. Well, I'm witnessing this in the natural world. How can I echo this in my own world? How can I go for inward reflection? You can also think of this as an invitation for rest, relaxation, rejuvenation. My absolute favorite week of the year is always between Christmas and New Year's, where nobody does anything except hang out with family and play games and rest and sleep in. Like, forget the alarm clock, unless you have a puppy. But yeah, so that's what the season calls for. This is the season to tend that inner flame. And as you tend that inner flame, it's going to help light you through the darkness. Guys, hot tub too. Yeah, so we talk about water in a second. So tending to that inner flame, this is the time of year to do it. So the darkest night of the year is upon us, coming up this week. So then the invitation becomes, how can you be at ease with the dark? And that's something to think about that you won't answer today. It's something to mull on for the whole season. And what is dreaming through you at this time? So another way to think about that. In Celtic lore, my lineage, light and dark were even. Light was not better than dark. Both were celebrated. We find ourselves at this weird junction in time that feels like we're supposed to pick sides. I'm getting philosophical, but I really think the winter season is that time to go inwards. And the dark is here. How can we be at ease with the dark? And what is dreaming through you? This is a season where I really think the earth is more alive. And I think summer, the earth is dreaming. And the flowers are the expression of the earth's dreams. In the winter, she is more awake and alive. But she's gone inwards. How can you reflect that in how you're moving through the days? So ways to support the energetics. So kidneys are associated with an emotion. The main emotion is fear. So fear turns on that stress response. The more you turn on the stress response, the more you're calling on your adrenals to work harder. So that's fun. Yeah, if you love that. So the flip side to this is courage. So then my invitation to clients at the season is always seek support to move through your emotions. Get some help to get that courage to move through emotions so that you're not afraid of the dark. This is the season to do it. And really to work on calling on your courage at this time. So thing 2 to support the energetics. And this is all in the handout as well. I've got 5 things to work through. We're just doing 3 today. Routine, for you to know, super soothing to the adrenals. Routine reduces fear. Routine helps your body to expect what's coming. Routine is where I would say you can work on for the winter. And for me, you can work on your routine through your days, through your week. In my days, I do a daily cuppa. So, and I post about it on my stories all the time. And it's kind of this routine piece at 10:30 and at 3 o'clock, I always take a break for a cup of tea. And that is a part of my routine. What if you did a routine around bedtime or a routine around wake up? Find one place where you want to work at something that is steady and consistent. And the more you can do that, the more your adrenals feel supported. What about the weekends? What if you build a routine on weekends? Like Saturday nights is always cards night with my pals and my sisters, something like that. Thing number 3 to support the energetics of the season. So water is the element. So how can you bring in the water? It's associated with cooling and with flow, with tranquility. How can you bring these kinds of practices into your days? So I'm thinking Tai Chi, I'm thinking yoga. These are very obvious ways to bring in that tranquility and the flow and that fluidity. But could you work in soothing baths, Epsom salt bath foot soaks, doing the hot tub, whatever lights you up, right? Bringing in, of course, that water element. And what brings you tranquility? There's no one's going to come to you and deliver it to you. Sorry. I'm already somebody's mom. She needs a lot of help. I love her so much. So how can you bring in tranquility? And part 4. So if you need some help with this, I have a 4-week recipe program, and it's called Winter Recipes. And in it, I'll show you what's in it. So, and if you sign up for the handout, you will get a link to it tomorrow with a coupon to save $10. So it is a 4-week program, a couple of recipes a week with different ideas to help you move through the season, give you some recipes as well. So that first week, we do the main organs to focus on. I know you can't see what it says. Energetics of the season. We give low histamine options, of course. Everything is gluten-free and everything is in tune with Ma Nature if you need it. I eat a lot of gluten. Okay. Week number 1, we talk about why this is about inflammation, why protein is important. We talk about sourcing. We talk about, the recipes are Korean pulled beef and honey mustard baked salmon. In week 2, we get into the wintry veg and ways to support that fluid and flow. And there's stuffed portobellos, turmeric cauliflower mash, and a miso creamed green, which is amazing for the season. In the 3rd week, we talk about some batch prepping sessions. So we get you into doing a routine of a batch prep every week. Do you see how I worked it in for you? You don't even have to come up with a routine thing? That's right. So here, this is part of the traditional wisdom and that ancestral piece of what our ancestors would have done. We talk about why activating is important, and we work it into some baked black beans. And there's a chicken liver pate. Welcome to the dark side. And then week 4, we get into black color foods and antioxidants, why we need them in the winter, and super deeply comforting recipes. Here we've got a white chocolate moringa latte, which is amazing for those who have histamine issues. It's awesome. And a Thai black sticky rice pudding with peaches, frozen fruit, whatever you can find. So those are the recipes in it. So there's the QR code again if you need it. For anybody who wants to add your email, it's the same link that was there before. And you'll get the handout and you'll get the link to this tomorrow as well when it comes in the email with the handout for it. Yes, Virgin. Yeah, so the question is how to eat bee pollen. So bee pollen, I love it on fruit straight up. I love it on a bowl of yogurt. I love it mixed in with cottage cheese. I like bee pollen on a salad on top of roasted vegetables. The one thing about bee pollen, I wouldn't heat it. If it's going on something hot, I would make sure I cook that first, take it out of the heat source, oven, stovetop, whatever, then put my bee pollen just before I eat it. And then make sure you store your bee pollen in the fridge. I think of it as like a little crunchy something. It's quite an energizing food. And some people, I have a client right now where she can only have a 1/4 teaspoon every 2 days because it is too much. She's like, oh, that's too much sunlight inside. Stop it. So for her, we do a 1/4 teaspoon every 2 days. I have another client where he has a full teaspoon every day. So find what works for you. And when it's too energizing, just listen to your body. She'll tell you, or he'll tell you, or they'll tell you. So yeah, there's going to be a coupon to save 50% off. So it'll be $10 for those 4 weeks of recipes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What else do people do with bee pollen? I love that. Toast, nut butter, and bee pollen on top. Anybody else? Oatmeal, blueberries, and bee pollen on top. I love that. What else do people do with bee pollen? Oh, in a shake, like a smoothie in the morning. Great idea. Yeah, that's an easy way to do it.
I love the taste, just eating it straight.
Straight up?
Yeah.
You're so hardcore.
But I get a stomach ache from it. I have like an allergy to it almost. So
really?
It's just too bad because I love it. I love the taste of it. I love the energetics of it. I just can't.
Maybe it's too much sun. Oh, intéressant.
Yeah.
We have one question. Yeah. Yeah. I would still use it. You just may not have as many active compounds in it. We say thank you to the animals who produced it. We don't toss it. We still use it. It just may not be as active. And know that when you get the fresher stuff for the next batch, once you finish what you've currently got, that it might be more energizing. So you might need to scale back at that point. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. 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 You quit your job and you join the commune in the country. No. So the question is, I leave when it's still dark and I get home. I leave work when it's still dark. What do you do for that? So can you take breaks outside? Can you do walking meetings at work? Can you even, like there was a smoke break. What if there's a tea break and you actually go outside for a tea? Yeah. So it's not hard. For recess. Yeah. Go out for recess. Yeah. You have recess. Why do you think teachers kick the kids out? Like they are light beings. Go out into the sun. Yeah. So make recess for yourself. And if you're driving to work, another thing for that whole circadian rhythm thing, roll down the window if you're driving to work. Or if you have to drive to work and you're parking next to the building, can you park 2 blocks away and walk those 2 blocks? Even the sun over the horizon is important. That light is even important. Could you also switch to taking transit? And then transit, inherently, you're out walking a little bit more, and then you're outside. And if you're wearing contacts prevent some of that light from hitting your eyeballs and giving that info to your body. So if you can wait to put your contacts till you get to work, and when you're out walking, you can put your glasses to the bottom of your nose and look like me walking around. In the morning, this is how I do it, so you can get more of the light on your eyes. It bends around your glasses, but it won't bend around a contact lens. Yeah.
All right, well, let's give Luka a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Sorry. Thanks, Gary. I'll leave some cards over there. Grab if you want.
All right. So a full evening class. That's the request. Okay, we're going to do a quick switch around and then crafting a nourishing herbal bone broth with Vivian and Brittany. It's going to be right up. So please stick around. We'll just do a quick transition, get them set up, and we'll start.